Hello everyone, it's Jo from Daisy. In today's video, I'm going to be looking at distress inks and how I can use them along with the Daisy stencils to create different spreads in your journal. The first spread we're going to be looking at is a daily spread. I'm going to be using stencil SE01, which is our super easy daily stencil. So the first thing I need to do is make sure I secure that stencil down onto the page so it's not moving around once I'm using the inks. I'm using an old washi tape to do this, and I'm just taping across the different areas that I don't want the inks to go. So for this, I'm just going to use the inks on the banner across the top. I'm using a mixture of 4 different colours, which I will link in the description below. And I'm using a different blending brush for each ink. So taking a little bit of each ink and rubbing it across the stencil in a circular motion. Apologies for any wiggling of the camera. It's quite difficult to do this without moving the table. So I've used 4 different colours and gone across the whole of the banner. And I'm then going to remove the washi tape just so that you can see what that looks like. And I'm giving the stencil a clean. I'm just using a bit of tissue. We'll use like a wet wipe just to go across it to remove any ink before I place it back into storage. So placing the stencil back in position, I'm then using my 04 Pigment Micron pen to trace out the rest of the design, which is where I'll add my daily to-do list, my gratitude, meal planning, anything that I want to in those boxes on the right-hand side. So that's what I'm tracing out now. I really like the effect when you use the distress inks within the stencil, how they blend from one colour to another, so you get kind of a rainbow effect across the banner. Now what I'm adding in above the sections of the to-do list is my big 3, which is my most important task for the day, and then everything else will go in the to-do list in the bottom left-hand corner. That's generally how I lay out any daily spreads on the days that I'm using a daily spread. I then got a box for eat, move and next, so I can plan out my meals and any activities that I'm doing. And I'm just going to add a bit of detail to that banner with the string going across and some stitching, which I think makes it really cute. And then within that banner, I'm adding today, which is, you know, I could put in the date, but this is a generic daily spread. And I think that's turned out really cute. So the second spread that I'm going to be creating with the distress inks is a monthly spread. I'm using SE03, which is our super easy monthly spread stencil. And I'm also using our classic hot air balloon stencil to add a bit of decoration at the end. So firstly, with the monthly spread stencil, it's really important that I place that so that the box is aligned to the dot grid on the page, and then adhering it again with some washi tape, just so that it doesn't move. Now with the monthly spread, what I'm going to need to do is block out any boxes that I don't need for that particular month. So for March, I don't need the bottom right 2 corner boxes. So I'm just blocking that off with washi tape, and I'm going to adhere it again with a little bit more tape all the way across. This is something that I've learned as I've been using distress inks. It's quite easy to go over the edge of the page and end up with it all over the place. So I'm grabbing, again, the same 4 different distress inks and just working my way around the page so that the colours blend into each other. I want kind of a rainbow effect with those distress inks. So taking each one in turn, using the blender brush and then using little rounded circular motions on the page to push the ink through the stencil. I'm also including the banner at the top, which I'll use to add a header to the page. So working gradually across the page with a mixture of colours. It's quite easy here for it to become a bit murky if you're using the blender brush over the stencil and catching other ink. But with these colours, it kind of adds to the blending effect. So it looks really pretty. You'll see once I take the stencil off. So finishing that header at the top and a bit of the blue in the top corner. Again, apologies for the wiggly camera. It's very difficult to do this without shaking the table because it does involve a bit of a circular motion. And I think that's mostly it for that spread. Again, the washi tape is essential to keep that stencil from moving, otherwise you wouldn't get the crisp lines at all. So as you can see, it's worked really nicely. It's such a nice effect with those colours blending into each other. And that's the right-hand page of my monthly tracker. I'm now giving the stencil a clean with a tissue just before I place it down on the left-hand side of the page. Otherwise, you will just make a big mess on your journal pages. So again, I'm placing the stencil where I want it to be, and then I'm going to use washi tape to fix that in place. I have just used an old washi tape. The good thing with washi is that it is removable, but just be careful when you peel it back. You don't want to rip the top layer of your page off. So I'm just using a little bit to start off with just to fix it in place before I add slightly more. And remember that I don't want the full left-hand column and then one of the top boxes for this particular month. So blocking that off with washi tape so it won't let the ink go through. So that's what I'm doing here, just blocking off that whole left-hand column because there's only 7 days in a week. It takes a little while to prep, but actually once you've got the inks, it comes together really quickly. Actually maybe a bit faster than if you were to use pen, for example, to use the stencil. So it's a nice quick technique to pull your journal spread together. So I'm nearly done now. I'm just going to add a whole strip of washi on the right hand side so that I don't, when I'm blending, go over what I've already done, and just adhering it to the top. And then exactly the same technique as before, using a variety of colours. I'm just trying to catch one of the colours that I don't think particularly showed up on the right hand side, so that I'm getting that rainbow effect. And again, over the banner at the top. These are the mini distress inks from Tim Holtz. It was a set of 4 inks that I bought to trial and see if I liked them. I definitely do, and I think I'm going to be getting more and more of these so that I can experiment with them in my journal. The mini ones work really well with the blender brush. It doesn't really matter that it's not a particularly big pad because I'm taking the ink onto the blender brush rather than using a stamp onto it. So just going through, making sure that everything is absolutely covered so that I haven't missed any parts of the stencil that I want to. And then I'm going to take those inks and put the lids on. By this point, my hands were pretty messy, so I am making sure that I'm cleaning my hands in between. Otherwise, I'm just going to end up with fingerprints all over the spread, which is not ideal. So removing that washi tape. As you can see, I've got my monthly spread, which looks fab. The rainbow colours, it's such a nice effect. And at this point, I was just going to use the SE03 stencil, and I decided that I wanted to add some more decoration and that the hot air balloon stencil would be perfect for this. So I'm going to add in the strings to the banner. I'm using a silver metallic pen, which is an Edding gel pen that I got from under the rowan trees, just to add the strings to the banner and the stitches for the banner. And I can also add the header on there, which is going to be March 2023, but it could be whatever you wanted to in those banner headers. So I'm just going to add that in now. And then I'm going to go fish out my hot air balloon stencil from my storage files. They are all organised now, so it does make things a lot easier when I'm looking for what stencils I want to use. Oh, I'm adding in my dates for each of the days of the month in that silver pen as well. Quite like the silver with this colours of ink. I think it goes really well. I think black would be too stark, so it adds a nice highlight, I think, to the page. So here's my hot air balloon stencil, and again it's all about the washi tape, taping it in place. I am just using a notepad underneath the page just to make it steady because I'm right at the beginning of this notebook. So adding the washi tape. I'm going to block out any parts that I don't want, which I don't want this cloud particularly, so I'm covering that up. And I think I'm realising that if, there's my arm, if I don't add washi down the side of the page, I'm going to get ink on the edges of the pages from the pages before. So I add a big row of washi tape right down the left-hand side of the spread. I tried to go underneath the stencil, it doesn't work, so going over is much easier. And I think I'm ready to ink now. And again, it's one of those things where the prep to this takes a lot longer than the actual process of inking. So I'm adding the ink in a slightly different way, I'm going in horizontal stripes across the balloons, kind of give the idea that they've got a pattern in them rather than the randomness of the monthly spread that I used before. I'm starting off with the lighter colours because they're the most likely to kind of catch any other ink and end up getting murky. So I'm using kind of a turquoisey colour here. I'm going across both balloons, and then I'm going to catch my purple, which I'm doing at the bottom of the balloon and also on the balloon below. These balloons, the hot air balloon stencil, it was designed to be a tracker. So if you use it in full, the big balloon has 31 sections and the smaller balloon has 7 sections. So you can use them as a monthly or a weekly tracker. But what I'm doing here is just using it purely for decoration. So it's all coloured in, just adds some decoration to the side of the page. So there we are, fully inked. And I think I can remove now. And then I'm just looking to see whether there's any other spaces on the spread that I think need to be filled in. And I'm going to use this tiny one down here. I'm also going to change my mind and put another one up there. So again, blocking off where I don't want the ink to go. Adding my ink in. A couple of different colours so we've got the same multicoloured effect. And the same for here. How cute is that small one? And just a little one over in the bottom right hand corner, just to pull the design the whole way across. I'm so pleased with how this spread turned out. I think it would be a really cute theme for the whole month. I think there's loads of ways that I can use these inks, so I'm just getting started really. And this is one of our older stencils, the hot air balloon, so it was nice to bring it back and use it in a slightly different way. So I'm just tidying up the inks, getting them out of the way, and then I'll give you a proper look at what the spread turned out like. And you can see there, look at that rainbow, so cute. I'm so pleased with this. And it's really easy to do, just that prep of getting the washi tape in the right place. So the third design that I'm going to do is a Brainstorm. It's one stencil, it's our Brainstorm stencil, and all we need to do is tape it to the page. Make sure there's no dust on the page. Washi tape. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just adhering it with a little bit of tape first of all, and I find this easiest, and then I can use longer pieces of tape to actually block out where I wanted to go. I decided that I wanted the centre square to be a slightly different colour than the clouds. So I'm blocking that square out completely using washi tape. And then once that's blocked and I've done all of the clouds, I will remove that tape and do the centre square slightly differently. So you'll see as we go along. Just using little bits of tape to adhere it, blocking the whole square so that there's no chance of me making a mess when I'm using my inks. So grabbing my brushes, I'm starting off with the lightest colour, which I found works the best. So it's a light blue colour, really wiggled that table there. And moving around all of the clouds evenly. So I'm starting with a base colour, and then I'm going to add in some little accent colours in purple and the darker blue to give kind of like a dreamy sky effect. With the lighter colours, it does take a little bit more work to get the colour on the page. So it's worth experimenting before you start on your journal. The purple and the blue, for example, the minute you touch the page, you've got loads and loads of colour. But with the light blue and the pink or the corally colour, it's a bit more work. So I've covered all of the clouds with the light blue. I'm then getting my dark blue and just touching the edges of the clouds just to give them a bit of depth, which I'll whiz around the page and do. And you'll see once I've removed the stencil in a minute, I'm going to add the purple, and I'm taking it on a bit of scrap paper just so that it's just a touch of purple. I didn't want them to be too purpley, but a little bit just adds to the dreaminess of it. How cute is that? So Now I'm going to remove that stencil. I'm going to give it a clean, remove the washi tape, and then go back and do the centre square. First of all, have a look at how cute they are. They're so crisp as well. It works really nicely. So take the stencil, wipe off any excess, otherwise I'm just going to get contamination. Again, just using a bit of tissue to do that, but I will properly do it with a wet wipe once I'm done so that they're clean, ready for next time. I'm doing both sides just in case any's got underneath. And then I did consider whether I wanted to use silver pen to go around that box. Excuse my head there. I'm just taking off a little bit of where I've gone over the edge of the page. But what I decided in the end was that it would be much nicer to add in just the coral colour. So placing it back where it needs to go. And then searching for my washi tape, which I've probably lost in the process of creating the spread. Trying to find the end of the washi. It's all right, I do get there in the end. And then I'm just taping again the stencil down, trying not to move it around, and then blocking out around the outside of the square instead of inside the square this time. So slightly different, just to make sure that I can catch that middle square in a different colour. So I've blocked off all of the holes so that I'm not going to contaminate my clouds. I'm taking the coral colour. These blended brushes are really good. They were from Amazon actually, and I like that they had different colour handles so I know which one goes with which colour. So I've gone over that in the coral, and then I'm just going to add a tiny bit, I think, of blue just around the edge, just so that the edges are nice and crisp and it ties it in with the rest of the spread. There we go, just a little bit dreamy. So remove, and then I will use the silver pen, but again it is the Edding gel pen, to add in a title in the centre area, and I'm going to use this for writing down worries. I'm just going to write worries in a script. You can't see it very clearly on the video because of the fact that it's a metallic silver, but it does show up really nicely in real life. It kind of catches the light. So here's me wondering what to write. There's my scribbles. These gel pens are lovely and they show up really nicely, especially on dark paper. But as I say, you can't see it in this light, but I promise you, when I show you up close and it's moving around, it catches the light really nicely. There you go. So that's my final journal spread using Distress inks. I hope you liked them. Drop me a comment below. Don't forget to follow us to make sure that you're informed when we post new videos. And take care.